Klal Yisrael leaves Mitzrayim, finally, after so much suffering, serving as slaves, doing physical labor all day long for generations. A broken people. They leave Mitzrayim, but they don't get far, and they're being chased. This is all of us. Whenever we try to make any change, whenever we try to improve our situation, very quickly, the old habits, the old behaviors, the old relationships, the old desires, they come chasing us. Because this is the nature of our biology. It creates routines. It creates cycles, rhythms, and then it tries to normalize based on expectation. And so whatever we feed to our organism, whether it's physical or spiritual, whether it's an experience or a relationship or a food, whatever we get used to, eventually there's an expectation, because this is the nature of the body. This is the nature of the biology. It adapts. It adapts to whatever we train it. And then this becomes its norm. This becomes its expectation. So whenever we want to do change, whenever we want to create a different routine, we want to create something new, there's going to be some form of resistance. We're going to get chased. We're going to get chased by the old beliefs, the old fears, the old cravings, whatever they might be. And so Klal Yisrael gets to a place where there's nowhere else left to run. On the one hand, they have the sea, and on the other hand, there are the Egyptians chasing them. And so now, Klal Yisrael needs to find some way to get out of this problem. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes and screams out and cries. So Klal Yisrael has already seen that nature is not exactly the way that it seems. There's a force within the capacity of the human to contact that can intervene with nature. But this force, the force that creates miracles, is an unpredictable force. We cannot rely on that force. We assume that the laws of nature will remain fixed as they are. And based on that, we can make decisions in order to create an experience for ourselves, to create a life that is meaningful in accordance with our beliefs. And so, as we experience life, we have the power to create whatever we believe is proper, whatever we believe is necessary. And then, eventually, just like Klal Yisrael, as they're growing in their awareness, as they're leaving their old restrictions, they come to new realizations, to new openings. And they've seen the power that's guiding them. They've seen what it's capable of, but they don't know how to interact with it. They don't know what is the right mode of requesting help in times of different difficulties. So here HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Ma titzak elai, what are you screaming to me for? Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yisou." Tell Klal Yisrael that they should keep moving. This is not a place to scream. You shouldn't be praying. Don't you see? Isn't it obvious to you? The Egyptians are coming. There's nowhere to run. You go into the sea. The sea has got to move. And so this is very difficult for us to understand. The Zohar says that what was being explained to Moshe Rabbeinu is that there are different levels of intelligence that are involved in what happens on this planet. And these levels depend on humanity itself. Humanity, based on the level of awareness, based on their consciousness, they invite which intelligence is going to be in charge of their destiny. And each generation has different levels of access to the intelligences that can be of service, that can help humanity align with its destiny and reduce suffering. And so, based on the intelligence that's being interacted with, the behaviors have to be directed. And so in this instance, Klal Yisrael is being led by an intelligence that is called Atiko Kadisha. Atiko Kadisha means the ancient Holy One. And this reflects an intelligence that has extreme compassion. It contains no judgment. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu is instructed that this is not a time for prayer, because prayer would indicate that we're dealing with an intelligence that has judgment within it, and we're trying to overcome that judgment. So through prayer, the decision maker, the intelligence that's in charge of making this decision, will switch from an approach of judgment to an approach of compassion. And this change, if it's successful, is reflected within the individual. It's reflected within the heart of the one who is praying. If there is a change from judgment to compassion, that change should be reflected in the heart of the one who is praying. But now they were interacting with Atiko Kadisha. They're interacting with the ancient Holy One. The ancient indicates the one that was involved with humanity before the difficulties began. The ancient desire of the Creator to be kind to creation, the way that it was before humanity got mixed up with the confusion that caused humanity to become their own enemy. So ever since humanity is not friendly to itself, humanity is being run by an intelligence that uses judgment in order to train. It uses judgment in order to restrict. And this judgment emanates from within humanity. And so then, when there's difficulty, humanity prays in order to weaken the judgment, in order to overcome the judgment, in order to bring forth compassion. This nature of compassion that is inherent in each soul is represented by the divine name. The divine name indicates the owner, the one who was meant to be in charge of the human soul. But through judgment, humanity constricts the life force, and therefore humanity has access to a different nature. That nature causes humanity to go through suffering. That nature even believes that humanity deserves suffering. And so based on the attributes, based on the place from where the perspective comes forth, the reality gets revealed. And so when we interact with an intelligence that's beyond judgment, then there's no room for prayer. That intelligence is going to do whatever is necessary in order to get the best results. And therefore, he says, what are you praying for? Just keep moving. A chance with the intelligence that switches between judgment and compassion, we have a much smaller chance to find redemption in the eyes of one who expects perfection. And so the eventual redemption that is going to release humanity from their suffering is not going to come as a result of an intelligence that has judgment within it. It's going to come from a source that is beyond judgment, a source that realizes and recognizes the purpose of why humanity was created, and therefore is more concerned with how to solve the problem than with who's at fault and how they're supposed to be punished. So this mindset that humanity has gotten itself into is going to have to change. Because as long as humanity is thinking in those terms, humanity invites that intelligence to be in charge of it. Because the intelligence humanity uses is the intelligence that is doing the judgment. And whatever the judgment concludes, the biology is already there to enforce. And therefore, the concept of Kriyas Yamsuf, the concept of splitting the sea, is a realization that even when we leave the imagination, we leave the magic spells, we leave everything that was not in our best interest behind, we still have to find access to this level of kindness, to this level of compassion that contains no judgment, so that we can get through the sea, so that we can split the sea, so that we can have the right, so that we can have the courage to approach life from a place where we realize what we represent and we realize what is in the interest, what is in the best interest of the one who created us and how he created us. So that we're paying attention, we're aligning with the will that made us be the way that we are. That will is the ancient will. And that will contains no judgment. And that will is the one that can get us through when we're trying to break out from our old patterns, our old ways of thinking, our old beliefs, and we're trying to find a new way to be. So we connect to that will, then every situation in life has an answer. Because it's always looking for that kindness. It's always looking for the way of compassion. What is the most compassionate thing to do in any given situation? This intelligence, if we can gain access to it, is capable of converting everything that seems to be against us into our closest ally. It can change what seems to be an obstacle into an opportunity. Because nothing is defined. Everything gets interpreted every instant, every second for itself. There is no continuity. What we're thinking today has absolutely nothing to do with what we thought yesterday, except if by habit we choose to repeat. And so, gaining access to this underlying truth gives us access to leaving the enemy behind, to leaving the old behind, to leaving what is no longer useful behind. Because through compassion, we can change how we react to life, how we react to situations, how we react to our own feelings. We can become closer to ourselves through compassion. We can become closer to others. And this allows for permanent change. If we come through judgment, then we lose our energy, we lose our ability to implement, we lose our power. And so eventually we come to a place where we cannot escape. We come to the sea on one side, the Egyptians on the other side, the old habits on one side, and our lack of knowledge, our lack of wisdom, our lack of true understanding that doesn't allow us to navigate if we look at life from the perspective of judgment. But when we come with compassion, then every situation has the answer hidden inside of it. Every challenge comes with the right emotion in order to create change, in order to create a new understanding, in order to tap in to that moment, to learn what it's trying to teach. And so it's not a matter of prayer with that intelligence. With that intelligence, it's a matter of looking for what's best. What's the right thing to do? What's the best thing to do? What's the most compassionate thing to do? And that's the intelligence that is going to take us out of this exile. May we all see that happen very soon.